You know, one of the strangest and most delightful paradoxes of existence is that we spend our lives trying to explain to others what cannot be said. We try to pass on the fragrance of an invisible flower, and then feel disappointed when no one seems to smell it. But awakening, my friends, is not a matter of being told. It is something that happens like a seed quietly cracking open in the dark. It does not require persuasion, nor argument, nor proof. It ripens. The great mistake is to imagine that you can awaken another by telling them what you have seen. You cannot. You may whisper to them about the mountain, but until they have climbed it, they cannot know its air. You can describe the sea to a man who has never left the desert, but he will still imagine sand beneath his feet. There are some truths that cannot be given. They must be born in the heart of the listener. There are things, deep things, that should not be spoken to those who have not yet begun to stir from their sleep. It is not because they are unworthy, but because they are not yet ready. The fruit falls only when it is ripe. To speak of certain things before their time is like planting a seed in winter. It will simply freeze in the ground. The first of these unspeakable things concerns what you call yourself. For most people, the idea of I is sacred. It is the little point around which their entire universe spins. They wake and say, I am here. They sleep and dream, I was there. And the story continues from one page to the next. It gives the feeling of solidity, of control, of purpose. And yet, for one who has looked deeply, this I begins to dissolve. Like mist in the morning sun, it fades when you try to grasp it. It was never a solid thing, only a pattern in motion, like a whirlpool in the stream. There is movement, there is shape, but no separate substance. The water is never the same, and yet the whirlpool seems to remain. Now, if you tell this to someone who still believes they are the author of their life, they will be frightened. They will hold on tighter. They will defend this sense of me as if their very existence depended upon it, because to them it does. So you must not tell them. Let them play their part. Let them fight, win, lose, love, and suffer. For the play must be acted before the actor realizes it was only a play. Only when the game of being someone has been played long enough does the player begin to suspect that he was never separate from the stage. Only then, in that quiet recognition, can he smile and say, ah, so that's what it was all along. You cannot rush this realization any more than you can command a flower to bloom. It happens in its own hour. And this brings us to another secret one that also should not be given too soon. Most people live with the conviction that they are in control, that life is a kind of machine and they are sitting at the levers. They plan and struggle, hoping to bend the world to their will. And though they may succeed in small things, the great tide of existence ignores them completely. You may row against the current, but the river does not change direction. You may shout commands to the wind, but it blows where it pleases. Yet if you tell this to someone who still believes in the importance of his steering, he will despair. He will think that life has no meaning if he is not its master. He will not see that letting go of control is not defeat, it is liberation. You see, the current does not carry you against your will. You are the current. The illusion of control is the illusion of separation, as though the wave could command the ocean. When one is still asleep, he must try to manage everything, to direct, to fix, to guard, to win. But eventually he grows tired. His arms ache, his plans fail, his strength runs out, and in that exhaustion the truth begins to appear. He feels himself carried effortlessly, and for the first time he realizes that the river was never against him, that the flow was never something to be conquered, but something to be trusted. This is why we must not tell him too early. He must first taste the futility of resistance. Only when his own struggle has worn him thin does the lesson make sense. And there is another thing we must not speak of, for it touches the deepest fear of all, the fear of death. Most people live as if death were the great enemy. They imagine it as a black curtain at the end of the play, behind which there is nothing. They decorate the stage and cling to the performance, terrified of the moment when the lights will dim. But what they do not see is that death is not the opposite of life, any more than the crest of a wave is the opposite of its trough. They are part of the same rhythm. You cannot have one without the other. Without night, there is no day. Without death, there is no life. If you tell this to one who still believes he is his body, he will shudder. He will think you are mocking his pain. But to one who has seen through the illusion of form, death is but another gesture in the dance. It is not something to be conquered, but embraced. You see, life does not come into the world. Life comes out of it, like leaves from a tree. And death is the return of those leaves to the soil, so that the tree may bloom again. For the unawakened, this truth feels cruel. It takes from them their sense of security, their precious distinction between me and the rest. So you must not tell them. Let them fear death for a while. Let them build their defenses. Let them pray for immortality, for all of this is part of the movement toward awakening. One day, when they have loved enough, lost enough, and seen enough change to fill 100 lifetimes, they will suddenly notice that there was never a thing called death at all, only transformation, only the ceaseless unfolding of the one great happening. There is a peculiar irony in the spiritual journey. Everyone, at some point, sets out to find the truth, to discover the secret, to reach the summit, to become enlightened. They imagine that somewhere out there lies the treasure, perhaps in a holy book, or in a mountain cave, or in the eyes of a teacher. And they struggle, they discipline themselves, they chant, they meditate, and they wait. But you see, the very effort to find the truth blinds them to it. The seeker is the cause of his own confusion. It is like a man trying to see his own eyes without a mirror, or a fire trying to touch its own flame. Now, if you tell this to someone who is still searching, he will feel betrayed. For to him, the search is sacred. It gives meaning to his suffering. It is the song he hums as he walks through the desert. And you cannot take that away from him, for it is his way of moving toward the realization, though he does not yet know it. So let him seek. Let him pray and doubt, fall and rise again. For every step he takes, even in error, brings him closer to seeing that there was nowhere to go. The path is the destination. The search itself is the finding. It is only when the seeker grows weary, when he has climbed all the mountains and peered behind every curtain, that he finally sits down, not in despair, but in silence. And in that stillness, the great joke reveals itself. What he was looking for has been looking through him all along. The ocean was in the drop, and the drop was in the ocean. But if you tell him this too soon, he will reject it. He will argue, for his mind cannot yet accept that the goal was never separate from the journey. His ego still wants to win the race, still wants the medal of enlightenment. So you must smile and let him run, knowing that the finish line circles back to where he began. The next thing that must not be said too early concerns what people call good and evil. The human mind loves to divide. It loves its categories, its opposites, light and darkness, heaven and hell, right and wrong. And without these, it feels lost. Society, too, is built upon these distinctions, for they give the illusion of order, of morality, of control. But once you begin to see deeply, you notice that the opposites are not enemies. They are two hands of the same body, each defining the other. You cannot have up without down, front without back, saint without sinner. Try to imagine a world with only light, no shadows at all, and you will see that it becomes blinding, empty, meaningless. To tell an unawakened person that good and evil are one movement of the same dance is to invite misunderstanding. They will accuse you of justifying cruelty, of excusing sin, of betraying virtue, but you are not doing that. You are simply observing that the play cannot exist without contrast. The villain is as necessary to the story as the hero. The storm gives meaning to the calm. The wise man sees this and does not condemn the shadow for existing. He sees that all things arise mutually, joy from sorrow, order from chaos, virtue from temptation. To those still caught in the game, this sounds dangerous. But the awakened know that seeing the unity behind opposites does not make one immoral. It makes one compassionate. For when you see that even those who do wrong are playing their part in the cosmic play, you can no longer hate them. You may act, you may protect, you may correct, but you do not despise. You understand that all things, even pain, are expressions of the same great harmony. This is why such truths cannot be told too soon. They must be discovered. They must arise within the listener like the slow blooming of a flower. You cannot open the petals with force. You can only wait, gently, patiently, and let the sun do its work. Most people, you see, are not yet tired of their dreams. They still believe in their stories, in their separateness, in their wars between good and evil. And that is all right, for the play of awakening must begin with ignorance, just as the morning begins with darkness. The purpose of this dance is not to escape it, but to experience it, to be lost, to be found, to forget, and then to remember. You cannot appreciate awakening without first being asleep. You cannot cherish light without having wandered through shadow. And so, when you know something that others do not rush to tell them. Hold it softly, like a secret flame. Let it warm your own hands. Let it illuminate your face. And if they are drawn to your light, they will come. They will ask. And then, perhaps, you may speak not to convince, but to mirror what is already stirring within them. For awakening is not something that is taught. It is contagious. One candle lights another, not by explanation, but by presence. Now you see, the real art of living among those who are still asleep is not to wake them with noise, but to let them dream beautifully until they begin to stir on their own. It is the art of being quietly awake in the company of dreamers. You do not need to shout your truth. The sun does not announce itself, yet everything it touches begins to shine. Many people, when they first glimpse a deeper reality, feel an urge to share it with everyone. They run to their friends and family and say, "I have found it. I have seen the truth." And of course, no one listens. They smile politely, or they laugh, or they turn away. And the poor soul feels rejected, misunderstood, lonely. But what they do not yet understand is that truth is not something to be given. It is something that reveals itself in silence. The awakened one learns to speak without words. He moves through the world as a calm presence, a quiet harmony. People feel it, though they cannot explain why. His peace unsettles the restless, comforts the sorrowful, and draws the curious. This is the way to teach without teaching, to embody what cannot be said. When you are silent in this way, you are not hiding anything. You are simply respecting the rhythm of each soul's journey. You are allowing them to bloom in their own season. A teacher who forces the bud to open destroys the flower, but the one who simply stands in the sun helps it open naturally. There is great wisdom in restraint, in knowing when not to speak. For words are like stones dropped in a still pond. Once thrown, their ripples cannot be recalled. The wise man does not disturb the water unless it must be stirred. And yet, this silence is not indifference. It is not cold or superior. It is compassion in its purest form, the understanding that each being must awaken in their own way, in their own time, through their own experience. You do not drag a child from a dream. You let the morning light do it gently. The world, as you see it now, is full of sleepers acting out their dreams. Some dream of power, some of love, some of fear, some of loss. They quarrel, they build, they destroy, and through it all, life continues to play its magnificent melody. You need not fix them. You need not wake them. For their dreaming is part of the whole. To live as one who is awake is not to stand above others, but to dance among them, laughing softly, playing your role, knowing that all roles are masks upon the same face. You can speak with kings or beggars, saints or sinners, and see no difference. You recognize yourself in all of them, and therefore you cannot hate, cannot judge, cannot divide. This is why the one who has truly seen does not boast of his vision. He walks lightly, he loves easily, he listens more than he speaks. He does not need to convert or convince, for he knows that everyone, in their own strange way, is already walking toward the same home. Some take long paths, some short ones, but all roads curve back to the center. And what is that center? It is the stillness from which all things arise, the silence before the first sound, the space within every form, the pause between every heartbeat. That is where you truly are. Not in your thoughts, nor your name, nor your body, but in the boundless awareness that watches them all. This is what cannot be told to those who are not ready, not because it is hidden, but because it is too simple. The mind looks for something complicated, distant, difficult to attain. It cannot accept that what it seeks is already here, in the very act of seeking. So the greatest teaching is silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of understanding. A silence that smiles, that listens, that moves with the flow of life without trying to grasp it. When you live from that silence, your life itself becomes the teaching. Every gesture, every breath, every glance becomes a sermon without words. People will feel it. Some will be frightened by it, some will be drawn to it, and some will awaken because of it, though you may never know. And that is enough. You were never meant to save the world, only to see that it does not need saving. The universe is not a problem to be solved, but a song to be heard. And when you stop trying to make it sing your tune, you begin to hear its true music, soft, endless, and unspeakably beautiful. So remember, there are things you must never tell the unawakened, not because they are secret, but because they cannot be taught. The nature of the self, the illusion of control, the mystery of death, the futility of seeking, the dance of good and evil, these are not lessons, but revelation. They unfold when the heart is ready, and not a moment before. Until then, speak gently, live simply, and keep the flame of awareness alive within you. Let it burn quietly, and those who are meant to see it will see. Those who are not will one day. For everything in this strange, miraculous universe is ripening in its own time. And when all is said and done, when every soul has dreamed its dream, the whole play returns to silence, and the silence smiles.